if you've spent much time at all with a narcissist, you know that there's a real strong need that that person has to maintain a control over you. It's like they already have it figured out. Here's how you're supposed to think and feel and behave and respond. They don't want to receive much input from you because, well, they already know everything they need to know. And they have this sense of superiority and dominance over you. They honestly feel like they're the better person in the equation, and it just robs you of your own ability to be yourself. Have you ever experienced anything like that? And you know that the more you stay in a situation like that, it can feel like a brainwashing job. Over and over and over, you're told that you're not adequate enough or you didn't do this right and you need to filter it through them. I'm going to be talking with you today about one primary quality in relationships that the narcissist absolutely cannot come to terms with, but I want you to be able to come to terms with this one quality. Now, before we go there, I do want to make you aware of the fact that we have a couple of resources available to you. There are two links right beneath the video to a couple of books. One is by me, and it's entitled When Pleasing You is Killing Me. And the other book is by Laura Carranza, and it's entitled Ugly Love, a Survivor's Guide to Narcissistic Abuse. And I think you'll find both of those books to be very helpful for you. And then also you can subscribe to our channel here and then hit that little bell. That's a notification so that as we load up new videos, then you'll be able to take advantage of what we put up. Now, let's go back to this one thing that the narcissist absolutely cannot deal with. And that is, there's a certain truth about human nature that they'd like to just kind of write out of the truth books. The truth is, you have a free will. You're free. Now, that's something that the narcissist doesn't want you to remember or to know. You see, what they want to do is they want to contain you, and they want to keep you inside a cage, if you will. They want to keep you inside the box, and if you come along and say, well, I think differently, or I have preferences that might not always match up with you, the narcissist is thinking, you can't do that. You're not supposed to have that kind of thought. And they just step all over the fact that you have a free will. You get to decide what you want to be. Now, my question to you is, all right, so the narcissist doesn't like the notion at all of your freedom. What do you think about that notion, though? Do you like the idea of you being free? Now, typically, when we talk about that word freedom, that has a good connotation to it. And here in America, we love to talk about freedom, and we even have a holiday that celebrates that. But the controller is very much an anti-freedom kind of a person. Now, you see, freedom is defined as the privilege to choose. The free person realizes that life is full of options, and you get to select whatever option you want so that you can determine how you're going to live your life. And the controller, the narcissist is over there thinking, why do you need to select things based on what you want? I've already got all the notions in my head as to what you're supposed to be. Just look to me and I'll tell you what the answers are. And they completely overlook the fact that you get to choose for yourself who you want to be. Now, let me give you a really simple illustration. Let's suppose that a family member says or does something that draws out an agitation or a feeling of annoyance in you. What are you going to do with that feeling of agitation and annoyance? Well, the narcissist already has the answer, and they're going to say, stop feeling that, or just do what I tell you to do, and they want you to just conform to them, and you have to just filter everything through their opinions and preferences. But what do you think? If you feel agitated and annoyed, would you be willing, as a free person, to say, well, let me think about what's going on that's prompting me to feel this way in the first place? What is that emotion trying to communicate within myself? And then I want to act upon it in a way that makes sense according to my preferences or my interpretations. Can you think like that? It might cause some problems, but can you think like that? Or another very simple situation that happens when you're living with a narcissist. Let's suppose that you have a schedule, or that you want to spend money in a certain kind of way, and something of that nature doesn't coincide with what the narcissist wants for you, and so they start telling you how you're supposed to do that. What if you were to say something like, I'm hearing what you say, but the good news is I'm still a free person. and I get to freely decide who I want to be, freedom being the privilege to choose, and I'm going to choose how I'm going to manage my schedule and manage my money. Is that okay? And you see, some folks are afraid to acknowledge another person's freedom because they think that freedom means that chaos will reign and there's anarchy and irresponsibility and nothing gets done. And I suppose some people in their freedom go to a pretty crummy place, but that's not what we're talking about. You can do that if you want. What we're talking about is very simple, and that is each individual gets to decide for himself or herself who they want to be. Narcissists do not like that concept whatsoever. Now, let's pick up on a couple of key thoughts here that go along with this. When you live inside a mindset of freedom, it means that it's your responsibility to ask the question, so who am I? Now, the narcissist doesn't like for you to ask that question because, like I said, they already have the answer to that. I'll tell you who you are. You need to be what I tell you. And they've got that agenda, but you get to decide, well, what if I think differently? What if I interpret life a little bit in a way that is not the same as yours? Can you do that? And as a free person, that actually is a cornerstone kind of a question for you to be pondering. Who am I? Who do I get to be? Or a second thought is whenever you're criticized or whenever you're coerced by that narcissist, you're not under obligation to just immediately go along with that person. As you ponder that who am I question, and the narcissist is over there saying, I'll tell you what the answer is. Well, rather than living with a feeling of obligation and duty, you can decide, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and see what my preferences lead me towards, and if you want to coerce, that's your business. I'll receive what you have to say if you just like to talk with me in a logical kind of way. But if somebody just feels the need to superimpose their opinions and preferences on me, I'm not going to go that way. I don't live according to someone else's coercive comments. Or another thought is, when you're free, you want to be smart enough to know what the consequences are to your behaviors, and so you factor consequences in. And once again, the narcissist will say, I'll tell you what the consequence is. If you do what you want to do, I'm going to make you pay, and they want to make you miserable and all. But you get to decide what the consequence is going to be. If you decide to live according to your own preferences and ideas and the narcissist doesn't like it, the consequence may be, well, we're not going to be coordinated today, but I'm going to be true to who I am. Or the narcissist may think that they'll punish you or they'll make you feel miserable for whatever it is you're saying and thinking and feeling, and they get to do that, but you get to decide for yourself what the ultimate consequence is going to be, and you may decide, well, if you want to withdraw from me or if you want to condemn me, I can live with that because inside myself, I'm comfortable with who I am. And if the narcissist wants to superimpose, that's on them, but I'm under no obligation to have to just drop everything I think and feel and go along with their hard agenda. Now, as long as we're talking about you being free, I think we want to acknowledge another primary thought, and that is not only are you free to be what you are, but so is the narcissist. And as you engage with that person, rather than thinking, well, they need to quit doing this, or they need to quit talking to me this way, or why can't they just be a little more of this and less of that? Well, wait a minute. I think it's fair game to share with them what works for you and what doesn't work. But ultimately, they get to be what they want to be too. And if they want to be angry, if they want to be harsh, if they want to be upset, they're free. They get to be that. It's not your responsibility to think for them because you see, they get to ask that who am I question just as you get to ask that who am I question. Now, let me give you an analogy as we wrap up here. The narcissist likes to think more in terms of what I refer to as an inside the mold mindset. Now, I want you to picture what it's like for a dog that lives fenced up inside a backyard. And the backyard may be beautiful and they have everything they may want inside that yard, but when the dog looks around and sees nothing but a fence, when the gates open, they just bust out and run. They don't want to be inside someone else's fence. They want to get out there and be free. And you've probably seen some scenes in your neighborhood where little Fluffy's running around and everybody's chasing after him because the dog doesn't want to go back inside the fence. I want you to think about an opposite analogy, and that is think about the life of a country dog. The country dog has no fence, But if you go outside and try to find that dog, well, actually, he's right up on the back porch, because you see the dog realizes, I've got total freedom here, but if you don't mind, I'd rather stick around with you. And so that dog can be loyal. They can actually have an ease and a relaxed way of living because they are being who they are based on what they choose. I think you and I are a little bit more advanced than those that are inside the dog world. And in the same vein, we can say that if you're having to live inside of someone else's mold, all it does is it generates a sense of agitation and a need to rebel. And so what we're saying is, let's give you permission to find your own home base and be what you are and live according to the ways that you believe are wisest and best. You are free. It's got a nice ring to it, doesn't it? There's a real nice compliment to it as well, and that is we're going to make the assumption that you also have the capacity to be competent, responsible, and capable. What would that look like? So even though the narcissist may chafe at the notion of freedom, well, the bottom line is, whether that person likes it or not, it's still your truth. As a free person, how do you want to manage that?